The anti-Trump media smells blood in the water. Journalists use the president's trip to Europe to push narratives that Trump is about to set in motion the collapse of the international world order. The worst offender was NBC, but Secretary of Defense James Mattis just shut down their fake news with just 4 words. During President Trump's summit with other NATO leaders in Brussels, the president chided European allies for failing to meet the goal of spending 2% of their gross domestic product on national defense. Just 5 of the 29 NATO members reached that benchmark, President Trump declared. Many countries are not paying what they should. And, frankly, many countries owe us a tremendous amount of money for many years back, where they're delinquent, as far as I'm concerned, because the United States has had to pay for them. Immediately after the summit, deep state sources began leaking to NBC that the Pentagon had to race into full-scale damage control mode to put out the fires Trump supposedly started. NBC exclusively reported, hours after President Donald Trump departed NATO headquarters Thursday, U.S. military leaders embarked on a full-scale damage control operation with calls to their counterparts across Europe to reassure them that America will abide by its defense commitments in the region. The outreach, directed by the Pentagon leadership, came after Trump threatened to reassess those commitments during a gathering with NATO allies in Brussels, according to multiple current and former diplomatic and military officials familiar with the calls. The overall message from senior military officials in a series of phone calls to members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization has been that U.S. military bases in their countries will remain open and American troop levels in the region will not be reduced. The goal of stories like this is to create the impression among the American people that President Trump is an incompetent oaf bumbling around the world stage and that his advisors are constantly having to clean up the messes he leaves behind. But this story, like so many others, is fake news. So Secretary of State James Mattis personally shot down the story in epic fashion. That was fascinating. I love reading fiction, Mattis said of the report, published by NBC. So it was stimulating to read it. I find out while I've been with you with full transparency on the airplane, you watching what's going on, that I've been in damage control. I must tell you, it must have been the most pleasant damage control in the A5 I ever could have imagined with the level of unity, of purpose that we experienced there, he added. So anyway, people are entitled to their own opinion, even if it's not fact-based. Additionally, Trump's NATO summit was a success. Trump's main goal was to push Europe to pick up more of the slack for their own defense. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg credited Trump for the member nations increasing their defense spending. We all agree that we have to do more, but also we've seen the biggest increase in defense spending in a generation, Stoltenberg noted. When pressed by Trump as to why NATO members increased their defense spending by the largest amount in a generation, Stoltenberg declared, "It's also because of your leadership and your message." President Trump's America First message is certainly upsetting the apple cart, but that is what the American people elected him to do. That's why you see so much fake news being leaked from anti-Trump forces within the government promoting the narrative that Trump is a failure.